have Mrs. Jackie Bartschek, Bobby Jo Matthey, and Karen Petley presenting today. My name is Constance Tetriff, and I am a Quality Improvement Advisor with Superior Health Quality Alliance, and I am accompanied by a few of my colleagues. Miss Mikesha, we usually have Tabitha and Margaret here as well as our guest speakers, Miss Jackie Bartschek, Bobby Jo Matthey, and Karen Petley. We host these 1-hour sessions on the second and the fourth Wednesday of the month. The first half is a didactic presentation. Then the remaining time will be for Q&A. The presentation link will be dropped into the chat momentarily. Please use our chat box to share any comments, questions, and even resources during the presentation. It's of note to you guys that besides learning from our speakers, we learn from each other and our peers as well. Towards the end of today's event, we will also put an evaluation link in the chat that will only take you 1 or 2 minutes to complete. We use those evaluations to help give you a better experience, as well as look at any topics that we can work to present for you guys. In the comments, can you answer a few pre-test questions? 1, how often are you rounding with your dietary directors, managers, and chefs, if whichever one you have? And number 2, how confident are you with your current food procurement, store and prepare and serve in sanitary conditions with the F0812? Please help me in welcoming all of our guests, and we look forward to you sharing your knowledge and experience with us today. The floor is all yours, Miss Jackie, Bobby Jo, and Karen. I will pull up the slides right now. I apologize.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for asking us to do this presentation. We had the opportunity to do it last fall at a conference, and it was interesting to hear the comments back because it's not something that's rare. And so that's where we started. We titled it Survey Tag to Savings. And it was myself as part of the team, and I'm an RN and our quality coordinator for our care center. And Karen Tetley's also with us. She's our administrator, and she also was our Lean project leader. She had training in the Lean project that we ended up using. And then we also have Bobby Jo. She is our certified dietary manager. And so the three of us were kind of the leads on this and decided, where do we go from here? So our objectives, next slide, please. Our objectives today were to develop a PIP from the survey tag, learn to use a RCA, PDSA, depending on which process you use for our process improvement, and then learn to use the audits for trending and process improvement. What we looked at first is we looked at what was our problem. And our problem was that we were given deficiencies on 2 annual surveys for expired foods. And so we developed audits with our QAPI committee to evaluate the changes that were put into place in the summer of 2022. Audits were not meeting. Our QAPI had said we need to meet it at least 90%, and we found that we were not meeting at 90% for at least 3 months. So in December of 2022, we determined that because of the audits, the committee felt like 1, we needed to meet it at 100%. And 2, we needed to use a different process. What we had in place wasn't working. So in December of 2022, we decided to move to what we are calling a Lean project. So I'm going to turn it over to Karen to explain what part of the Lean process is and how we started with it.
To answer the question, no, I do not see the slides. So I don't know if first we want to try to figure that out. Perfect. I can see them. Next slide. I think we're down a little bit. Next slide. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so my name is Karen. So as Lean, often we ask, what is Lean? There's on the screen is your generalized definition. Lean certification is available. Lakewood Health System initially had invested in a handful of staff that had received condensed training that consisted of 8-hour, 1 day per month for 6 months to complete It was a 36-hour course of Lean Six Sigma coursework through the Advanced Minnesota of the Northeast Higher Education District, or M-State, in 2017. If you're interested at all in seeking a Lean certification, just, feel free to go ahead and do your Google search to see what best fits into your budget and needs. Next slide, please. So this slide really just wanted to show everyone what the most popular tools are for Lean. Lean looks very different for very many different people. Each one of these tools has its purpose. So when you're doing your project, you can identify what would work best for you. And just showing you that we focused on the PDCA or PDSA process. Next slide, please. So the Lean project itself started in January of 2023. First part of any Lean project is identifying the project scope. With that, I myself had pre-talked, met with Bobby Joe, and discussed what we were going to have in scope of the project, as well as what they could work in outside of that scope. From there, a team was identified by myself meeting with my vice president, the executive sponsor for the project. She was a great mentor in this. We talked about that administrative support and discussed who needs to be at the table and how I plan to approach the team to create an inviting environment with hype and buy-in to reach those desired goals. With that, yes, there was some prep meetings to talk about some expectations and who those champions for the project were going to be. With that was a one-on-one meeting with Bobby Joe to discuss those goals and who would be the best fit within her department. Those conversations talked about staff expectations and what that would be for the participants, and challenged her as well to say if those staff were up for the task, because it does kind of put you outside of your normal boundaries of comfort level. We talked about the importance of communication. I think that's important with everything, emphasizing on over communicating to make it a successful project. With all projects, it is important to remember to be sure to do your before pictures as well as the after pictures. Often staff will, respond best to visuals, helping them see the progress that was made, as well as managers tend to appreciate the dollars and the cost savings. So that is it for me. Next slide, please. And then on to Bobby Joe, I believe.
Yes, yep. Okay, so then the process. So the charter was completed, so we found the group and we started meeting with them. We determined the scope of practice, which would be no expired foods in any areas. So these were the areas that we determined was dry storage, freezers, coolers, bakery, main dining room, memory care, and then the care center kitchenette. So kind of every area that there was in the in our facility that has food. And then the scope was no expired foods in any of these areas. So this is a before picture of what our fridge looked like before we changed up our process, and then after. So you can see a huge difference in the amount. Okay, next slide. And then this is just a restocking sheet example. We have listed par levels here and then every day of the week, just so that they are held accountable for restocking these areas, as well as knowing what par level that they should be restocking at. Next slide, please. So the process. Captured before pictures. We created new par levels for all areas, communicated with IDT. We determined these by trial and error. Nursing and the frontline staff would communicate if they were running out or if something was needing to be, if something was being overstocked. We found that there were not items getting used, so we pulled these items back. Pulled all extra inventory from areas that succeeded the par levels. Restocking sheets were created with new par levels listed. Supplied all product with their own bin, and then labeled each bin in the cupboard. So before, we used to just cut off the box tops, throw it on the shelf wherever it would fit. And now we have containers that we put everything into. Everything is labeled on the container as well as the cupboard itself. Oh, and then another thing we noticed was in one area we had no juice. We had juice, but no glasses. So nursing was having to run from the main dining room for the glasses. And then the juice to go back into the other area. So we decided to eliminate the juice from that location because they're already running for the juice glass. So now they're just coming to the dining room for any juice need that they need. Next slide, please. Process monthly meetings. During this meeting, we would bring up the following: what is working well, what needs improvement, and what trends we found on the audits. The frontline staff made these changes, and I was just there to support them. We made a vendor change with US Foods. We also identified areas for equipment improvements. In one kitchenette, we found that there needed to be a new fridge because there was a torn gasket on the fridge. A new shelving and cafe. We had one shelf that we just randomly found throughout the facility, and we're using that, and it was cluttered, so we found that we needed a new shelf for that area. We communicated every change. Manager. Okay, then I attempted to do, hold on a second, I'm all over the board. Okay. Communication and plan. So anytime there was a change, we would bring that forward to our IDT department. DON talked about that change, what actions we were going to take to make that change happen. We captured the after pictures, and then the project ended in July 2023. Next slide, please. So initially for the audits, I gave education to all staff on expired foods and dating and labeling. So we talked about the importance of first in and first out, the importance of checking dates every day when we are restocking to make sure that we are catching the expired foods before that they are expired. We decided to, if there was 2 days left, we'd pull that food item before it expired, as then we aren't getting in trouble from the state point of view for having that expired food in our facility. I attempted to do all the audits, but it was taking me about 2 hours daily to get these all audits completed. And then the staff attempted to do audits in their own areas, but then we found that staff were not finding the time to do it, or if we were working challenged, that they would be pushed off to not getting done. All food areas were disorganized. There was no par levels provided, and then the communication with IDT was poor. Next slide, please. So audits. So we identified. So we kind of went through and found trends that we noticed were happening within our kitchenette areas. So this one on this was that the nectar thick liquids, we had big bulk containers of it, and no one was labeling and dating them. As you can see, then we switched to individual containers, and then our score had went up to 100%. Next slide. So savings, efficiency, time savings. It takes us about 30 minutes now to do an audit rather than the 2 hours that it was taking me. Inventory, we have less stocked in these areas, so it's taking us less time to stock them. Change of vendor, we saved $14,694.26. So that'd be $2.93 cost per meal through January and August of 2023. And then these are just some of the things that staff had said when ordering groceries. Has been a huge time savings with the ability to visualize, see what is needed to be ordered, and then Restocking, I know what is needed for my areas with having par levels listed and having each item have its own bin. I can determine what is needed at a faster pace with no guessing. Next slide, please. New workflow created. Have one designated employee take the audits. We had a lady that goes around twice a week already ordering groceries, so she took on the task of doing daily audits. She's already in there, knows where everything's at, and can look over it very quickly. Looking for trends. So we looked for any trend that we could find. We found that sometimes like nursing needed to be educated, as we were finding that there was their personal items in the residence kitchenette areas. The nectar thick liquids was a huge trend that we had found. Time savings, it was time savings for the staff because they're not stocking as much, they're not guessing on what needs to be restocked. They have their par levels, they can follow them. And then communication with IDT on all changes. So any change that we made, we communicated that out right away, and then we also asked for feedback on that change as well. Next slide, please. Challenges, personal items in resident areas, coffee, pop, dilly bars. Anytime that these items were found, I pulled them. I still have a coffee pot from when this project first started, and no one still has not claimed it. Just making sure that them items are not in them areas. Nectar thick liquids not dating after opening. Initial engagement and buy-in. They didn't trust the process. It's always been this way. So at first it took a lot of us to get them involved in wanting to have the change. And I feel like that giving them their voice really helped us get their buy-in. Finding correct bin sizes. Every case comes in a different size. So sometimes we thought we had the right size bin, and then when that new case came in, we didn't. So then just trying to find that correct bin. Working with nursing to identify inventory and par levels as appropriate. So if the nursing noticed that they were short one day on something, they would communicate that out. We're noticing that we're running short on sandwiches, then we would make sure to bump up our par levels to make sure that it accommodates every aspect within our facility. Next slide. Goals met. So audits, I have been at 100% since April 2023. We had a financial impact on this. We had teamwork, permission to speak up. So anytime that someone thought that something needed to be changed, they brought this forward and we tried to fix it, or reason why we couldn't fix it if it was that. Project wrapped up in July 2023. We still do ongoing audits, and we moved to weekly per QAPI committee, and we're still doing them to this day. Communication between departments. So anytime there's still a change, or if we find that there is something that shouldn't be in the fridge, we're still communicating that out at all times with nursing and the appropriate departments. Next slide, please. And then tools and resources. So we use the project charter, dynamic, and then the PDSA. Karen and Jackie, do you have anything to say on this slide?
No.
No.
Go ahead, Jack.
Karen.
So these are tools that will be linked or provided for everyone today. They're just examples of tools that can be used as part of the lean process. It kind of walks you through some of those steps to help get you going into it. It's important for people to recognize that lean can be as simple as you want it to be, as well as complex as you want it to be. When you're the official, like if you were going to go into a lean degree, it's very complex. The process that we chose to do was not as complex as that, but it was still allowed us to measure things as we needed to be able to make changes, to be able to tap into different resources to say, how are we going to do something different, as well as allowed us to say, give everybody the opportunity to speak up, to make change when and if it was needed. So these tools can be good for certain things and work better for other types of projects, but that is what we have that we provided for people today as an example.
And we're working to get those links and into the chat. Just bear with us. IT is working on that.
Constance, are you able to go back to slide number 5? I think it is.
Can you tell me where it is? It doesn't give me numbers.
It's right at the very beginning. Right here.
This one or the next one?
Forward one. Perfect. I wanted to share a little bit. Our facility uses our PDCA or PDSA a lot. And if you've never used it before, it really is pretty simple. We start in the top corner where we had the process that we knew that we needed to improve. We'd organized our team, and then we clarified, what does that look like? What do we think we want to do with it? So we set out, okay, this was our process. This is how we want to do this and how we want to work with it. So that would, and at that point, our team would go, Bobby Joe would go back to her team and go, okay, this is how we're going to do this. So we would continue to have meetings then about every month that initially, and as we started, and go, okay, come back. And then in the next month, we would go back through this process. What's happening? Is this working? What are your audits showing? What's falling out? And then we would look again and go, okay, what do we need to improve? How do we change what's not working? What are our barriers? And we would just keep working our way around this, plan what changes, trial it again, check our results, look at our audits, use that new information, and then redo that. So we would do that about every month as we started the project till we kind of got it fine-tuned down to what was working. Because initially when we started, we had no thought to really look at redoing stocking and inventory. We just wanted to find a way to not get tags for expired food. It's an easy tag to get. It's an easy tag to give. Literally, they found 1 carton of expired milk in our memory care patient refrigerator, and that tagged us. And we had that type of a tag, 2 separate surveys. And so we felt like, oh, we took care of it in the first survey. And when it popped up again in the second, it's like, okay, we need to change our process. So we really weren't looking beyond how do we fix expired foods. Well, when we started digging down and using this focus, we found that it wasn't just the reason the foods were kind of expiring is part of what Bobby Joe shared. There was way too much inventory. It was taking way too long to check things. So we were also coming just out of COVID. So staffing was an issue. Nobody had 2 hours to go spend checking for expired foods. That wasn't the priority. So it wasn't getting done. Too much stuff, over ordering. It was costing way more than it should because we couldn't find things. Whoever was doing the ordering would kind of go through and look and didn't see it. Oh, we're out of that. We better order it. Come to find out, somebody else stocked it in a different place, and we already had 4 cases of that. So really, it was not, we were spending and buying things that we didn't need. So as they started to dig into it, they found it was, expired foods was our start. But as we worked into the project, we found the things in the process that were going to help us get to the not having expired foods was that total, looking in all the areas, redoing, doing those inventories, doing the par levels. And when you look at that one fridge, it was just stuffed and there was way too much stuff in there. So once they put those par levels in, then whoever's doing that knows, oh, okay, we're supposed to have 4. And at that point, it was a lot of communication. Once we made that change, that communication part with our frontline staff was huge. Is this working? Is this number okay? Let us know if this is not enough. And then when they're doing checks, if we're finding things are left there, we're finding things starting to date out. Do we have too many? Is there too many of this in there? The thickened liquids was the one that was catching us. So we were throwing it out. There was no date on it. So it's not a cheap item. So you're throwing it away and you don't even know if it's good or not good. So going to those individual units saved us money, even though they're more expensive than the multi, jug type thing. But because we weren't throwing them away, we knew exactly what we had. It actually ended up saving us money by only having what we needed. So the PDSA, PDCA process was really beneficial to us as we worked through and just reworked everything. The next meeting, we'd come back and go through it again. And I think Karen and Bobby Joe would agree the buy-in was the toughest part. That would, getting that right away from the start. We just don't have time for this kind of thing. And we've always done it this way. Why would we need to change it? Well, we've gotten 2 tags, so that's why we need to change it. But getting the staff to feel like this was their project was probably our first big barrier to overcome. I think once we got staff on board, and the staff that became the champions, as from my position looking in, were not the people that I thought would be the champions, and they did an awesome job. And they really are the undercurrent of the department. So if they're not on board, it was not going to work. So it really was a good way to really, if you're going to, you got to embed it, and it really needs to be the staff people that are going to cause you the most grief if they're not on board with it. So and really this can work with any, ours was expired foods, but you can really use this process with anything and use it to, you may not go into all of the lean, but the PDSA, PDCA, you can throw that in, if you do a root cause and go, okay, this is our problem, you can throw that problem right up in the corner of find a process to improve, and then just work your way around that process and keep repeating that until you feel like it's embedded where you want it to be. And I think we're good for any questions then, Constance.
Thank you so much for this presentation. We will now open it up for questions. Sorry, here we go. I do know that we did have a response that said, I'm very intimidated by the kitchen. We had asked that it can be very intimidating. How can one be more confident and successful in auditing and rounding if are there additional tools and checklists for auditing?
Bobby Joe, you handled most of the audits and getting your team on board, so I will let you take that one.
I would say for the auditing part is what I did is I took my par level sheets, my restocking sheets, and then I pretty much turned that into my auditing sheet. And then I figured out my percentage, and that's how I did it, because every facility will have its own products. Same with like the cooler, sometimes not all the things are in there. So I just kind of made a general list, and if it wasn't in there, I just cross it off. But if it was in there, then I would just check it to make sure. People in the kitchen can be intimidating. I don't know how you would be more confident. I think getting their buy-in and how bringing the problem to them and asking them what they would do to fix it, asking them for their solutions behind it might not always be the correct answer, but at least it's getting their buy-in on what they would want to do.
I would interject too for you, Bobby Joe, that as a piece that was a little bit outside of this project scope was that you and your supervisor started with the cooks and moved stuff around to make it make sense. So like you had changed certain coolers to have certain things in it, like you were talking about the leftover versus the dairy or something like that, to make it more efficient for them as well, which helped, I think, with some of the buy-in when it came to the actual project itself, because they were able to say and identify that, yes, we're going to make this better. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think that's a huge key is not not like me, the quality manager, going in and saying, okay, this is a problem, so we need to make some adjustments and changes because we've got 2 tags. So this is what we're going to start doing. Bobby Joe really started at the bottom and engaged that staff, the people that were going to be needing the products, that needed the ingredients. If we stuck that over in a different spot where it's a problem for the baker to actually have to take more time to go get it, to move it, it's not going to stay where we put it. They're going to move it right back to where it's most efficient for them. So really getting their input right away from the start when they started to do that organization was huge and key. They're the ones that use the product every day. I don't use the product at all. So for me to go in and say, well, you know, I'm on this lean team and we're working on fixing you guys. And so this is what we think you should do. We needed them. And that was our biggest challenge right away at the start. But once they realized how much time it saved them to be able to know, I can go to this part of the freezer and my milk is there and I can grab it and I'm good to go. And that's where it's going to be. It's not going to be, oh, well, we put that one over here because it was easier for us to get to. Their buy-in was very, very important right from the start.
Sure. And we can see if I'll reach out to I wrote down your name. I'll reach out to people at Superior Health Quality Alliance and see if there's somebody that does have already an audit tool, or they know of an audit tool that you can use. And then I will personally send it to, if I have your email address, I will send it to you. Okay. Otherwise, you can reach out to the Roundtable at superiorhealthqa.org, and we will be able to send out those 3 tools that they did have, just in case we aren't able to get it in the chat right now. I did link some of the things that we do have on the Superior Health Quality Alliance website that are about root cause analysis, QAPI plans, how to start a project, goal sheets, goal setting, documents, and things of that nature as well.
It's a little bit of a random thought, but I would also go back to, you know, we talked about over communication and in the importance of some of that as well. Just to share that our team has a daily huddle. So I believe Bobby Joe or Jackie would address some of those things then, but our primary communication is through email. So you know, we do send it through that way, which trickles to managers, then down to staff as well, and then through department meetings as well. So just kind of wanted to share a little bit of what that communication thread might look like.
And what do you talk about in those huddles?
So yeah, Jackie, do you want to take that on? Because you attend that daily.
Sure. Our care center has a morning IDT huddle every morning. Usually they kind of quick run through residents, any concerns, just hitting high points of what's going on for the day, if there's things that need to happen. Dietary attends, our activities attend, our social services attend. I try to get on when I can. The DON is on and the nursing coordinators are usually on. And sometimes the social worker is on. So what it is, it's really just a full, so if something comes up, dietary wise, dietary's on to talk about it, but it also is a good, because you've got so many of the, you know, mid-level leaders for the care center there, it's a great way to say, like Bobby Joe could say, hey, you know, we're taking this out of the kitchens. So if you hear, if you know, if there's a problem with what, you know, is left there, please let us know. We didn't include the pictures of the one wing kitchen, but you know, it was literally, you take the box of crackers, open it and throw it in a bin. And so there was all kinds of stuff in there, way more than what they needed. And so, but when that went away, that was really uncomfortable for staff. Well, what if we need it? You know, it's like, well, we were working on that and we could communicate that right through IDT. Bobby Joe could share with, you know, the team that, okay, this is what we did. This is what we're working on. This was the feedback that how you guys wanted to try this. And, you know, let us know then to, if that's not working, not enough. And like Karen said, over communication, you know, not making them feel like they were being left out of the process, because it really needed to be nursing, dietary combined. You know, my role was really just, I don't want to see this tag again. So what, you know, how are we going to avoid that? And then this team actually worked with dietary and our nursing to come up with what works, and it's been working well. You know, I think the staff are happy with it. Like she said, the audits go quick. It takes very little time, and we have had a survey since then, and we did not get an expired food tag. So that was a big success, I feel like, because it's an easy tag to get, and I mean, you miss one carton of milk, they'll find it, and then here you go, here's your tag.
Oh, yeah. I'm adding the care pathway from CMS because you could use that as one of your audit tools. It's what your surveyors would use in that situation, in addition to whatever it is that your managers are using to determine how much they need to order, like they said. So I will include that as well. Let's see. Other questions. How often are you huddling with, so do you in-service your staff about the process? Are they included in your QAPI? Do you have somebody that's not just the dietary manager that attends your QAPIs? To kind of give you the lowdown of what
we do.
Sometimes
Yes.
we don't see what's actually going on, you know?
Yep, we do. We have our QAPI is very multidisciplinary. We have a couple of frontline staff that attend. We have environmental services frontline staff who attend. Bobby Jo and her next supervisor also attend, so not just her as the manager. And then our nursing coordinators. We also our vice president, our medical director is there most months, and we do have it monthly. Just because we found quarterly, it's just too far apart and we have too much to get done. So monthly, we can usually accomplish things. And then we also include our emergency preparedness manager attends almost every meeting. And then we do quarterly pieces where our pharmacist attends and goes through her, our PharmD specialist goes over her report with us if there was any QAPI concerns to look at, any concerns that she had that we need to put on as an audit. So and those rotate quarterly then for like our activities. They're welcome to come to every meeting, but they actually give us a report and update on, and not just what they're doing in activities, but really what QAPI wants to see is what percentage of residents are you engaging? How many are coming to the events? Do we have the right events? So really looking at, for us in Minnesota, our quality of life survey, if we're having, not getting the scores that we want on activities, that's helpful for us to see, where do we need to change it? Oh, we're not having things they enjoy. Okay, let's use an audit, some kind of a survey to see what do our residents want and need to be able to bring this up to what shows that they're having enjoyment in life through activities. So those players are all at the table at our quality meetings monthly.
I'm still looking through
And
the
just have
chat.
a quick question about how does infection control play a role within the rounding in your QAPI plan as well?
Well, we do have an infection preventionist, and she's very good at sharing with us what audits. She does do a monthly report on where any kind of infection concerns are. And having her at our QAPI meeting then actually is beneficial, because with environmental services there, if she's seen an area where we have a concern, we recently had an influenza outbreak. So that was a big piece of environmental services. Okay, we need you to kind of switch up a little bit of priorities. We need high touch areas cleaned more than once. We tried kind of isolated wings. These particular wings, we need to make sure that you're getting side rails cleaned more than once a day, bathrooms cleaned more than once a day. So that piece is really handled mostly through regular staff and our environmental services as far as infection control piece of it. We didn't really focus on infection control as part of our expired foods project.
Did you guys use any of the CMS care pathways to develop your processes?
We didn't on this particular one, but we did before our last survey. That was part of our prep, was I sent each department that was department specific for them. I sent that to each of the managers so they could look through it and say, okay, this is what the surveyor is going to look through and we'll look for, is your area ready related to this pathway? So that's how we use the pathways, was really to, it's not a secret, it's not a surprise. Here's what they're looking for so that they could be ready when the surveyor showed up.
Okay, that makes
We
sense.
also do one of them pathways probably once a month, just to check to see where we are at, to make sure that we are always ready for when they do walk in the door.
Do you think that that was helpful to do that once a month?
Yes, I do. I still think it's beneficial. Then you know what's going on. You know what we need to, we know what we need to work on in the meantime. So,
Oh, perfect.
and it also updates staff, like I found 3 pans that are wet or whatever it might be, so that they're aware that things need
Yeah,
to be changed.
that makes a lot of sense. You know, a lot of our IPCs did rounding in the when I was in facilities. That I will always made sure that they did rounding as well in the kitchen, because while you might feel out of your element, it's still important to see how often they're washing their hands, getting all of those checklists and those audits done. As well as, you know, just making sure that you got a kind of a heads up on things that could be improved, as well as the director of nursing. Did you guys do walking rounds in your IDT stand-up meetings or whatnot? Did you guys do it as a group, as a leadership group? Some places do that.
I think in the beginning we did, as we started to go through to see kind of where our problems were. These were our problems areas. So Bobby Joe actually took us through to the different areas. And so it was good, I think, to have some different eyes to go, whoa, could you move this over here? And Karen's not clinical. So from her non-clinical eyes, sometimes that was really beneficial to go, well, why do you guys do it this way? You know, could you do it this way? Would this be a better way? And you could have really good conversation of, well, no, regulatory wise, it has to be here, but maybe we could move this over here to make it easier for them and not have them have to make extra steps to go get this. And I think that was really beneficial. And I would totally agree with Bobby Joe using those, the pathways. And as she is, we did not, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bobby Joe, but I don't think we had one nutrition services dietary food tag with our survey this past year. So that's an easy tag. I mean, somebody puts their fingers wrong, they don't wash their hands, you know, and they really watch that closely, you know, both in our dining room and in the kitchen. No tags related to any kind of food service this year. So that is a kudos to that team for really using the tools to be able and getting the buy-in from the team members. And it's tough. She has a lot of turnover with a lot of young staff that come in. You know, it's your entry level staff, the, you know, the high school kids that want an after school job and they're working 4 to 7. And sometimes those are tough employees to engage and help them understand, no, you don't get it, we have to do it this way. So I think that continual rounding and connection, and not rounding in a punitive way. It's really rounding in a, help me understand why this isn't happening, because here's where the end result has to be. What's your barrier to getting there? And really wanting to know from their end, because sometimes we see it one way, but from their end, you know, they're the one making the rounds at the tables in the dining room, and they can tell you, this just doesn't work. You know, when you put this over here and move this over here, I can't get to that, and a resident needs it and it takes longer, then they get upset. So it really is a team effort to be able to engage employees. And then, and I think those pathways were very helpful, and continuing to use them as she is was really beneficial to avoiding tags.
That really makes sense. We're going to repeat those questions again. How often do you think you'll start rounding with your dietary managers, supervisors, and chefs after this presentation? And how confident are you now with your processes and with going about using some of these ideas in your processes moving forward? You can put it all in the chat if you'd like to. We also want to remind you that if you are interested in COVID-19, pneumonia vaccinations, and or a immunization vaccination clinic, you can email immunizations@superiorhealthqa.org. Yes, we'll put that in the chat. And we can offer you a free mobile vaccination clinic if you reach out to us and are in need of those to get your residents up to date. The up-to-date COVID-19 information, I apologize, the up-to-date definition has currently changed. So that changed not too long ago. And you are probably seeing those changes in your NHSN reporting and the percentage of residents that are considered up to date. Reminder that if you have residents that are over 65, they need to have a second shot, a second COVID-19 2023-2024 vaccination that is 4 months after their last vaccination. If you are interested and you have a continuum of care, and you're interested in a free mobile health fair, as well as a free mobile vaccination clinic, either or for your RCACs, assisted livings, or member cares or whatever, you can also reach out to us as well, and we can get that scheduled for you. We have the Vivint Health modules that we want to always encourage you to try and use in your facility. We're really pushing for facilities to try it out, see how it works, and use those with their residents and their staff. And I just want to thank you, ladies, for presenting on this topic. This is one of the most overlooked sections and where we do end up getting a lot of citations and FTAG. And it is helpful to go through some of these ones that we might not feel as comfortable with in leadership positions, that's for sure. Before we exit today, we're getting close to those times. I want to let you know about our next presentation. We are very excited about our next roundtable. It will be on Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024 from, it is noon, I apologize, Central Standard Time. And we're talking with reducing hospitalizations using the Interact process. We are excited and have the phenomenal Sue LaGrange, the Chief Nursing Officer of Pathway Health Services, leading our discussion that day. Sue, with her wealth of knowledge and passion for healthcare, will illuminate the path to using Interact effectively to decrease hospitalizations. We want you to learn from a seasoned expert and discover how to improve your residents' health while minimizing unnecessary hospital visits. It is of note that we are unable to record that specific nursing home roundtable due to royalties that they have to pay for that information and education that you'll be receiving. So we've contracted to ensure that the education is completely free for all of you to attend that roundtable and make sure that we get good information about that. We hope you'll invite anyone from your facility and your teams that you feel need to be there, such as nursing home administrators, DONs, IPC, discharge planners, MDS, nursing supervisors, unit managers that can make effective changes in your facility, and even your nursing staff if you think that they will learn from that and it would be beneficial from them. We also encourage you to take notes and take the information learned back to your huddles and in-service educations just like today for your staff on what is learned and resources available. Before you exit, please click on the link to the evaluation in the chat box to provide feedback on today's session. Thank you all for participating. We look forward to seeing you back here on May 22nd. Thank you, guys.